So when you are saying Indo US bonding in the China perspective, you have to understand these past failures, and they should not be repeated. Um, Even recently, after Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, the Americans had made an offer: take over Afghanistan, and we will give you all the financing necessary for the operation, all the weapons you want, and we want to get out of Afghanistan. And India turned that down. And having turned that down, the Americans went to the Pakistanis, and the Pakistanis brought in the Taliban. So if Taliban tomorrow, I mean, there's still some time before the Americans disengage. But if Pakistan takes over, if Taliban takes over Afghanistan, and this Taliban is totally pro-Pakistan, then Taliban and Pakistan together play havoc. And now you see, in the context of China, Pakistan, Taliban, Iran, Nepal, it's a formidable combination, all in the fringes of India. And so you are going to get the United States to come in to help you to do what? Obviously, American troops are not necessary because we have enough troops. So you want the Americans to, give you advanced weapons, not just ordinary weapons, but advanced weapons. Then there's another new angle that is developed. Earlier on, I think about a year and a half ago, the Americans were willing to give you the most advanced jet they have produced: F-35, F-26, etc. And when they were discussing it, India went and bought a weapon which is used to attach to an aircraft called the S-400 from Russia. And this upset the Americans no end, because they expressed it to me, so that's why I'm telling you. I said, what's wrong if we shop all around? They said, you don't understand. The Russians are totally dependent on the Chinese for electronics, and S-400 has Chinese electronics, and therefore, number one, you will have to, for servicing, have the Chinese come and service it, or the Russians will ask the Chinese. And that means if the Americans give you technology, then these people spy on it, and we can't. It's a security problem. So they canceled that program of giving, in very concessional terms, these aircrafts, which are far superior to Rafale and other aircrafts. So what I'm saying today is, everybody says, "Oh, Americans are with us." Americans, yes, in a kind of cosmetic way, they're with us. They say they want us. They don't want to just forget India, but they try to get India into as close to them as possible. And if we fob them off, then there could be an administration tomorrow in the United States which would be of the view why we should take sides between India and China. And that would be Biden's government. Biden's government has already addressed Muslim groups in the United States, saying that we thoroughly disapprove of the present government in India, which is targeting Muslims. I don't know which any of you have seen it. I don't know whether Narayan Swamy Ramesh, who is very clued in, would have seen these statements of Biden. Perhaps at the question hour we can exchange notes. But the fact is that Trump is, whatever is his other problem, but as far as India is concerned, he is better than what Biden would be, or better than what the Democrats would be. And then we will be totally isolated. So the first thing we need to do is first find out what is it that will make the Americans convinced that they should help us. For that, a person like me and person like Ramesh and others who have lived in the United States, they would have a fair understanding. The American psychology is not platitudes, how great democracy is, how we are together, how anything, how we know English, that sort of thing. They do business on the basis of what is called as give and take, and their own analysis, which is called cost benefit analysis. What does it cost them and what is the benefit they get? So if you want the Americans to be forthcoming, open, you have to decide what are you going to give, what are you going to take. If tomorrow you ask them for the most advanced weapons, they say, okay, we have not yet left Afghanistan, please send 20,000 troops to Afghanistan to help us reduce. They won't pull out completely, they'll say reduce, but you can deal with the Taliban. And your people have got a very good reputation fighting. And you can, with the help of the Afghan people, you can put the Taliban down and also keep the Pakistanis at bay. Of course, there will be casualties, but then we have had casualties now in Ladakh. But we can ensure that the families of our fallen soldiers are looked after so well that it ameliorates up to a point the loss of the head of the household. So therefore, they may say that. Then what do you say? Are you going to say yes or no? They may say that let our navies patrol together. They may say that when there is a war between, if the Chinese declare war to take over Taiwan, we want you to send troops. What are you going to say? So there are many things that we have to be clear in our mind what we can say. If you say no to something, then you have to give them something else, some other way. So you can't just simply say, oh, we are a democracy, you're suffering, so please give us this and all that. It doesn't work. So the handling of the US and keeping them on your side requires a great deal of sophistication. And it can't be done by being sycophants, because then the Americans will step on you. It can't be by bluff and bluster, because the Americans know exactly what you have and what you need. So I think the one thing that Indians will have to, particularly at the policy level, know how to deal with the Americans. Don't get carried away, oh, we are a strategic understanding partnership, Modi has become a world power, the kind of thing that our newspapers write rubbish. Americans are ready. American companies who are going to leave China and come to India. Yes, they're going to leave China, but they can't come to India, because all the American companies in China are people who are part of the value-added technology. What has happened in China is that after Deng Xiaoping came and took over, the Americans entered into a strategic partnership with China. They helped Chinese economy this way, that East Asian countries whose labor had become very expensive were told that, listen, you produce the basic structure of equipment, and the value added will be done in China with cheap labor, because that's the part where it is labor intensive. So the Lenovo, for example, is you produce the circuits, you do all the wiring, etc., or whatever, and electronics fitted in, and then they send it to on sale to China. China then in Shenzhen and in Guangdong and in Dalian, all these places where they have special parks, they have collaboration with the Americans to add value to it. So what they do, the keyboard is put by them, and then the screen of the laptop is put by them, and the case is put by them, and that is what Lenovo is. And then they put a stamp made in China. Apple, of course, was the only company I know which said you can't put made in China, then otherwise we won't come to China. So Chinese agreed as an exception for Apple that they can say made in USA, even though much of what the iPhone is either assembled or produced in China. So we are not in any position to do this. East Asians don't want to come to us because of the regulatory factor. This is a harassment. Buying land means 7 years. Environment ministry, this, that, all that. In China, it all went through like a knife, hot knife through butter. So I don't expect that the Americans will bring all their companies here. On the other hand, the Americans want companies to come here who want to take advantage of your cheap labor. So Walmart wants to come because all the food grains, etc., and vegetables, this, then all this is collected very cheap at a very cheap cost. They get capital in America from banks at 2% interest rate. It means the capital cost is very low. And so they set up a Walmart showroom here and start selling, and everybody's impressed with the air conditioning and the fancy look of it. Or a pizza house or something, These are the things that the Americans are very ready to come because they benefit by the cheapness of our labor. But the technological cooperation, don't expect too much. There are some things we do. On software, they were relying on our what we call as the blue collar coolies of our IT companies. But in terms of domain changes or design changes in computers, we are nowhere. We haven't produced a single thing. There's no Microsoft in India. I mean, the equivalent of Microsoft in India. But we produce very good, back channel or, the software components for necessary. And we do have, because that's all goes on imitation. And there's no innovational aspect in that. So, therefore, I think when we say Indo US relations, don't overdo this economic thing. The Americans will come. No American will go to dump money in India because they are all very professional, market-oriented people. It's a cost-benefit analysis that will be done. So, and then this euphoria comes in, and later on you find that it is not like that. Then people become bitter. So, in order to avoid that, Americans can help you in many things. When I was Commerce Minister, we were in a deep trouble on foreign exchange. We were going to default. And Chandrasekhar told me that I have no alternative but to default unless you come up with some solution. I didn't have any solution. We needed $2 billion, which by today's standards is about $20 billion. And to get $2 billion, all of a sudden, at such short notice, I said, it's not, I'll think about it, but I don't know whether I can do it. So he says, then of course I'll have to declare a default. Now, luckily, the American ambassador came to my room saying that he wanted India to help American planes coming from Philippines and going to Saudi Arabia to fight Saddam Hussein in Kuwait to refuel in India. And that's where I made a deal with them. All right, we'll consider changing our ancient policy, our time-tested policy of not giving bases to anybody, refueling, nothing in times of war. But we'll change that provided you get me $2 billion from the IMF without conditions. And the Americans immediately made that trade. And we got that $2 billion. And one of our VHS enthusiasts has sent me the New York Times cutting of 1991, where they quote me as announcing that the IMF loan is coming. So, and praising our government for being so practical and all that. So, the idea is to deal with the Americans not by fawning on them. They are not easily susceptible to flattery, which our people do a lot. They want give and take. You want something, give us something that we want, and that basis we go. And there, the technology transfer, where the intellectual property rights issues are not very prominent, although we have a very good record on intellectual property. Intellectual property is not so good. There, we can get their technologies and set up companies to produce those things, not add value from East Asia and all that. But we can produce American products cheaply, and we have been losing steadily. For instance, on garments, it's all gone to Bangladesh now. It's we have done very poorly on this. So we have not benefited by the Chinese losing the production of garments through the West. So we have to very coolly say these are technologies we need, and we will pay the right price for it, or just bargain and say we can give you this cheaply and you give us this cheaply, that kind of thing. If you are going to do that, then of course it will be a way in which our economic cooperation can go. Second, we must help the Americans when they are in dire difficulties, like wanting to get out of some place. If they want to get out from Afghanistan, I think it's in our national security interests to protect Afghanistan from going to Taliban. There may be a lot of casualties, but we have to take those casualties and compensate the families to the extent that they don't feel completely miserable. Nobody can be happy if one's husband or one's father has been killed in war. But at the same time, the uncertainty of life that comes after that should be completely removed. And the Americans, on funding of that, will be very, very generous. Use that to get the weapons you want. And then deal with the Chinese, because in the Chinese, we need cyber warfare. And we need satellite mapping of what is happening in China, what's happening in Pakistan. The Americans have done a tremendous job on that. Intercepts of electronic communications, hard intelligence on terrorists, controlling the military and ISI in Pakistan to make them sit down and not go with China. If we are not there, then there's nothing for the Americans to be gained by telling Pakistan don't go with China. But if we become a partner, they can force Pakistan into not doing that. So then we can get allies of the United States like Indonesia and Japan to help us to make Malacca Strait as one of where we also have a stature in deciding, like in Suez Canal, who will go through, will not go through. 90% of the foreign trade of China goes through Malacca Strait. And if they can't send there, China will be sunk. So therefore, the Americans can help you get the Indonesians and the Japanese to assist you both in South China Sea as well as in Malacca Strait. That's another thing you can do. And we can get technology of desalination of seawater, how to convert, how to produce hydrogen fuel cells for automobiles, how to convert thorium into uranium 233 into reactor fuel. So these are the things that one more thing that we need to do with the Americans, and it can be done if we now come to the American help in Afghanistan and places like that, which are around in our area. And that is make the Americans withdraw their ban on agricultural products beyond a point from India. We can sell wheat, which is much cheaper than the American wheat. Of course, the agriculture in America would be affected, but the Americans can think of subsidies and things like that. Then we need to export in large amounts Bos Indicus milk. Already there's a big craze in America for Bos Indicus milk, and even supermarkets are now having cartons of which they procure in India through commercial means. Instead of that, we say, no, you remove your barriers to entry and let us send Bos Indicus milk from India. For that, we have to have cold storages, packaging, so many other things that need to be done. And we can be liberal with their up to a point, for their drugs which they want to sell in India, pharmaceuticals. And we can have many of these things done on what is called as the comparative advantage theory of in economics. Now, I also think that the Americans have a tremendous advantage in the teaching systems. Their tape recordings, their the electronic methods of disseminating knowledge, and so on. So our educational collaboration can overnight change the character of our schools from just being routine memorizing and so on into ways of thinking and so on. So the educational technology is something that is possible. So I would say, as far as China is concerned, what we need to do is teach China a lesson for a change. They've been saying they taught India a lesson. Now it's time for us to teach them a lesson. We have a huge advantage on logistics. We don't have enough weapons. And so the Americans can help us. The Americans and the Israelis can help us in mapping, in cyber warfare, and in interception of signals, and so many other things. And we need to push the Chinese out now all the way, because they have disrespected the LAC, the line of actual control. Although it's not a formalized thing, but it's mutually agreed, and they have broken that. So we need to push it. Remember one thing, that we and India and China had a lot of problems when Mao Zedong was all in all. When the leadership change took place and Deng Xiaoping came, what a difference it made. And so many things we got done. Even I could go to China and get Kailash Mansarovar opened. So I would say, don't say China. The present leadership in China of Xi Jinping and the military, PLA, as it's called, People's Liberation Army, they are the ones who have gone into this adventurism. And if India gives a devastating blow in the Aksai Chin area, then I think that there would be a leadership change inside China. And then we can have normal, good relations with China again, if the next leader has learned a lesson from what happened. So in the long run, India, China, United States are the three triangular arrangements, the triumvirate, if you want to call it, who can influence world affairs. And therefore, while becoming friendly or using the Indo US relationship, let us not go overboard and become junior partners of the Americans. And but let's go do it on a case-to-case basis, on give and take, and then also see that we are vindicated in Kashmir, in Ladakh in particular, and establish ourselves as an equal to China in military power. And then, of course, the whole world calculus will change. That should be the idea, not that, oh, the Americans are coming to help us, like PL 480. So Lal Bahadur Shastri said we can't go on waiting for ships from America to come all the time. And he came up, he put some people together, MS Swaminathan, C. Subramanian, took advice from the Philippine Rice Research Institute, from the Washington-based World Food Research Institute, and came up with this package and gave it to the 10% prosperous farmers who produced enough for us to become self-reliant. So we can do that in many big ways for our country, make India into an economic power with the help of the United States, not by begging them for money, not by allowing American companies to come and take over, but by borrowing their technology, buying their technology, and at the same time modernizing our army with the help of their modern weapons. This is how I would put it, should be our Indo US relationship in the context of China.